Hey, what's up guys? Tom from Positive Lead Diagnostics. Today we're working on a 2010 Volkswagen CC. The customer complained this vehicle was towed in and it wouldn't come out of park, and when you manually move the lever to unlock it and putting it in drive, it didn't go anywhere. It was like it was in neutral. So check engine lights on. There's a ton of lights on the dash. I'll get you a shot of the dash and then we'll get the scan tool hooked up and see what kind of trouble codes we have. So here's a look at the dash. We got a check engine light, park and brake light, bulb indicator, traction control light, other park and brake light, tire light, and let's see. So it won't come out of park. You can see that light's flashing. So the information I got when they moved this into drive manually, it still doesn't do anything. It's like it's in neutral. So I'm gonna hook up the scan tool and get that rolling. I've had this car running for a while. When I first pulled it in, it was running fine. It came out of park fine. There were not as many lights on the dash, but it was fine before. So I had to let it run. It's nice and hot now, and finally it started to act up. So we'll go with the factory scan tool, and this is a Passat CC. It's a 2010. It's a coupe. The engine is a CBFA, which is a 2-liter turbo, and work with guided fault finding is just going to scan all the modules. So we got a ton of lights on the dash, we might as well do that. Alright, so Dtc Memory List. This is giving us all the DTC memory of different modules. So in the ECM we have a U0101 lost communication with the TCM. Brakes, Tcm No Com. Parking brake, Tcm No Com. Let's get on the gateway. Gateway, Tcm No Com. Alright, so we have no communication with the TCM. Let's go back to control module list. Notice it didn't even identify it. We can try. So control module cannot be identified. No, we're not going to enter it. Installed. So a couple things we can do. Go into guided functions of the gateway, read measured values, which are also the data PIDs, whatever you want to call it, and reception of the TCM, and then just to give you an example, ECM. And so these are just the communication data PIDs. So reception of the ECM, a 1 is good. So in the gateway it's talking to the ECM, we have a 1 there, that means they're communicating. Notice TCM or transmission has a 0, which means we are not talking. Alright guys, so before we get all high tech, one thing we can use are these measured values, this transmission control module, this No Com. We have a bit that reads 0 when it should read 1. So what I want to do is I'll show you where the TCM is. It's not in the fender like on the other one. This is a direct shift gearbox, a DSG transmission, and it has what's called a mechatronic unit, which is the valve body and the TCM combined in one inside the tranny. There's a barrel connector down there, and what I want to do is I'll just bring up these measured values, I'll leave them up there, and we'll do a wiggle test on the harness and see if we can get communication back. Just a simple, easy, quick check before we get all high tech. I'll show you where that connector's at. Alright, so there's that barrel connector. This goes straight into the side of the tranny. And this is the TCM connector. And that connector goes straight into the valve body, or what's called a mechatronic unit. It's the TCM and a valve body put together in one. It's inside the tranny. All right, guys. So picture this. Picture a manual gearbox that has two dual clutches, and the clutches are controlled by solenoids on this mech unit. Pretty much that's what it is. It is a manual gearbox with automatic controlled clutches and solenoids. That's how it controls the different gears. We'll do the wiggle test and look at this measure value, see if we can get communication to come back, drop out. Right now it's 0, it's not communicating, so we'll see if we can get it to come back. Alright, so I'm not going to show you guys where I'm wiggling. I'm just going to grab the harness anywhere near this connector. Just stay focused on that 0. If it turns into a 1, then that means we have communication. So I'm wiggling the harness now. I'm just going anywhere near this connector. I don't see any damage. So this is pretty much a visual and simple wiggle test. If that starts jumping around, maybe we can potential to be a wiring issue or something like that. Alright, so I'm not seeing that come back. So the next thing I want to do, grab a wiring diagram and hook the Pico up to these CAN lines and see what our network looks like. Alright guys, so right here, these are our CAN high and CAN low lines. This was at pin 10 and pin 15. And then I also went through and highlighted powers and grounds. So the next test, we'll go to the network, take a look at that, and then after that, do some power and ground checks. Alright guys, so I got the Pico hooked up. Just giving you a shot of where I'm hooked up at on the CAN high, CAN low, and you see my ground connection right there. So I'll get you set up on the Pico, and we'll see what we have. Alright, so I did have to unplug that barrel connector. Usually don't like unplugging things, doing electrical testing and all that, but there's no choice. Just of the style, you can't really get into the pins until you pull it off. It's just really hard to see and get down in there. So I'll get you focused on the Pico. Alright guys, so I'm on my network here. See, channel A is my blue, that's going to be my CAN low. The red channel, my channel B, that's going to be our CAN high. And I'm hooked up straight at the TCM or at the mech unit. They are combined and located in the tranny. And we have a good network leading up to this TCM. So it looks like CAN high is going from 2.5 to 3.5 as it should. CAN low is going from 2.5 to 1.5 as it should. Both signals mirroring each other, a little bit of hash in there. I'm okay with that. Zoom in a little bit closer. Very fast signals. All 3.5. Base right here, 2.5, 2.1. Here, 2.5, 1.5, 1.6. Not seeing any of that distortion like we did before with the no power. So the next thing I want to do, we'll just do a couple power and ground checks and do a resistance check on the network from the Tcm connector and make the call. Alright, so it's hard to access these pins. And what we'll do is just unplug this and you have to grab it and you turn the tab. It's called a barrel connector. You gotta twist it. You have to twist this piece, and that's what unlocks it. And this is it right here. Get our wiring diagram, and for right now we'll just take a test light, touch on and off some pins. Alright, so I'll go to battery ground with my test light, touch power, test light lights. So let's get my diagram. So we have a power feed that comes from a fuse on pins 20 and 11. They are red and green. And it is hard to judge this because of how the connector is actually laid out. See, those are red and yellow, not red and green, red and yellow. That's what it looks like. This top one, right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Test light right there, and then another red and yellow. Second one in right there. So, second one in here is a power feed, and this pin up here is a power feed. And test light, those are good. Get a meter. I'm gonna go to those same pins. So 12.4. That outside one there. 12.4 on both of those. Let's see our other one. So then we have blurry. SC39 right here, and that is pin 13, and that's going to be a black and green. So we can do it with the meter first, since I have that in front of the camera lens. And black and green is going to be this one right here. 12.4. Get the meter out of your way. This one here. So I'm just setting it in that pin too. So test light's bright. I believe that's it for the power feeds. And then we're going to have Two ground feeds that share the same ground, 673, which is on the left front long member, which is going to be right below this connector down here. But those are pins 16 and 19, and those are both brown. So switch over my test light. Now when I touch ground, test light lights. Those two are right next to each other. Looks like right there. My hand's in the way. So ground right there. And another one right there. One lead on battery positive, touch on ground, 12.4, touch on the other one, 12.4. So powers and grounds are good, although this is unloaded testing, but the test light puts a little bit of load on it. We have a nice bright light. So the next thing I want to do is just do a resistance check on this network. There are two terminating resistors in the ECM. I believe they're 120 ohm resistors. Parallel, so we should have around 60 ohms. Just gotta find my leads. Zoom you guys in a little bit. My can high and can low right next to each other. So one right there, other right there. So 58.8 ohms. It's pretty close to 60. I'm okay with that. So network's good, powers and grounds are good. And this thing needs a TCM or a mechatronics unit, valve body, whatever you want to call it. Just know that it's inside the transmission. You're going to be dealing with some fluid. Plug it back in. I've seen sometimes where you can unplug a module, plug it back in, and it works. So that's not going to change anything. We're still going to make the call, but just in case. No change. Still a 0 on transmission. So it's worth a shot, I guess. Alright guys, so we're going to make the call. This thing needs a TCM or a mechatronics unit. The TCM's a part of the valve body on this. That's all it is. It's just a smart valve body. It has a module attached to it. It's not behind the driver's fender like the other one. There's also not a fuse missing or misplaced like the other one. So powers and grounds are good. Our network up to the TCM is good. Measuring resistance, we have two 120 ohm resistors. Those being in a parallel circuit makes it a 60 ohm resistance spec on the network. And we have 58.8 ohms, pretty close to 60. I'm okay with that. So this vehicle needs a TCM. If I get the job, I'll take some pictures. Maybe I can get you guys an after shot. It depends. Maybe I'll put a picture up at the end of this video, or I don't know, do a quick part 2 or whatever. They need to sell the job first. So we'll kind of leave it at that and play it by ear. So we're going to make the call, needs a TCM. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and thanks for watching.